Welcome to Champagne Problems Podcast. I am your host, Robbie Shaw. Join us as we explore mental and emotional well-being, physical optimization, and the journey to discovering your highest self. Champagne Problems is brought to you in proud partnership with Bond Buzz, the alcohol-free social spirit. Bond Buzz is an award-winning alcohol-free functional beverage company creating adult drinks that are health-forward, all-natural, and uncompromising. They're on a mission to create a future where feeling good and getting buzzed exist in absolute harmony and not at the expense of your health. Their bold concoctions offer focus and energy while calming the nervous system for a night on the town or a productive afternoon. Bond Buzz uses only natural ingredients and a hyperfunctional blend of nootropics, adaptogens, and functional mushrooms to amplify the sensory experience. If you're looking for a drink to help you cool off after work or a drink to stimulate your mind and body without the harmful, icky hangovers, drink Bond Buzz for good days only. Kim and Penn Holderness, welcome to Champagne Problems.
Hey, Robbie.
Hi. Hi. I say welcome like as if I'm hosting you, but I'm actually in your house.
Welcome to our attic.
Penn and Kim, thank you for having us in your attic.
In your attic.
Yeah.
This is very exciting. It's been a little bit of a long time coming for me. You guys are so busy. Give a shout out to Dave Snyder, who I call Big Poppy. Does he ever use that nickname with you around, Poppy?
I would try super hard not to call him that.
So Big Poppy like David Ortiz, but not like Big Papa?
The story, I probably need to leave out details, but there was a time, a night in New York where we ran across an individual who used the word Poppy 25 times in 2 minutes. Okay. And so from the rest of our relationship, which was 27 years ago that began then, we refer to each other as Poppy.
Oh, okay.
Let's get on the street, Poppy. Like, what are we doing tonight, Poppy? It's very funny. All right, so how do I know y'all? Kim, I've known you for 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm. It's been a great 30 minutes.
Oh, man, sparks are flying. Penn, met you in New York through Dave Snyder. Sparks flew. Let's start with some rapid fire. Are y'all good with that? I think y'all are pretty quick. So I've got two guests, so we're going to do... two answers. Start with you, Kim. What was your first live music concert and where?
Cher in Tampa.
Tampa?
In Tampa. I grew up in Florida.
Yeah.
I'm really lucky. It was Run DMC, Beastie Boys, LL Cool J, and Houdini at Greensboro Coliseum when I was in like 8th grade.
Good Lord.
And no one knew who the Beastie Boys were. Like they were the first act. It was crazy. It was great.
Jeez.
Yeah. And it's all gone downhill from there. I don't think I've been to a better concert. Yeah.
You've seen Britney Spears. You've been to a better concert.
Yeah. Have y'all been to Taylor Swift yet?
Yes, I have with my daughter. Yeah.
I was not invited.
No. Well, no, you would have been invited, but there's
tickets.
2 tickets.
So you have not seen Taylor?
No. And I want to.
You need to. Yeah. Right. I've seen her 3 times. All right. So second question, favorite smell?
Ooh. Yeah. I like in North Carolina after it rains in the summer. There's a smell after it rains when it's sort of warm, and I like that smell.
I like that smell too.
Saltwater ocean.
Oh, that's always my answer as well. Least favorite smell?
Oh gosh, there's so many to choose from.
I got mine.
Okay, you go first.
14-year-old body odor.
Yes.
Oh wow, I think
it's specifically 14 years old.
Right, my daughter's 14.
Yeah, I would say like a rotten egg body odor of anybody, any age.
Rotten egg body odor. Yeah. It's a different pungicity.
Yeah.
Pungence?
Pungence.
No, I think you might be right.
No, I am not right.
Okay.
It's pungence. If you had to change your first name, what would you change it to?
Great question. What would you be?
I'd always want to be Steve.
I can understand
Steves
that.
do really, really well
just
in life.
My whole
Steve
life.
Austin, the $1 Million Man.
Well, you probably wanted a more common name because growing up with Penn, you stood out.
Yeah, Steve would have been like a little simpler.
I was born in 1976, and as a Kimberly, every third person was named Kimberly.
And the others were Jennifer.
Yeah. So I wanted something more. I want something more unique. So what about unique?
Your name would be Unique. Unique from New York.
Yeah, unique from New York. Yeah, something very special.
Unique is super special. All right. So the last question, little cerebral here. If you could know the answer to any question, what would you ask?
What happens after we make our exit from this earth?
Who are all the aliens and where are they?
Yes.
Like, cause they're there. Like I want like a little dot and like know all about them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yours is way better. You won that one.
Well, yeah, because I feel like
that's
if
the
we
ultimate
could,
question.
I feel like if we could figure that out, there's a lot of things.
What happens afterwards?
I think that we could get a lot more stuff right here if we knew what was happening there.
Yeah.
So.
Interestingly, had this conversation earlier today about ghost stories. And have you ever met anyone that swears they've seen a ghost?
Yes.
Yeah. I have too. I've never seen
Yeah, I feel like we were in Savannah when we were newlyweds, and we went on a ghost tour, and I think we were sort of conjuring. They were like, "Oh yeah, I definitely saw something." We saw nothing. Yeah.
I saw, like, I woke up one night in my parents' basement and there was a specter of someone over me breathing, going like, as I woke up. And then I realized I'd had a lot to drink the night before. And I think it was some kind of hallucination.
So not a ghost.
No.
Not a ghost.
Got it. All right. So we don't know the answer to your question.
It was tequila.
Through that
Yeah.
It was tequila. Yeah.
Because you hear these stories, these ghosts, and there are people I saw a ghost. It's like, oh, well then now we know that there's life after death.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that, yeah.
I mean, there's the answer.
Question,
there's
right?
something after death if you've seen a ghost.
I believe that there are spirits around us. I believe that, Penn probably is not as woo-woo as I am, but I believe, just strange enough things happen, coincidental things happen, and we've seen things move. I mean, I don't know if it's like his dad coming back and saying, "Get your act together." I don't know what it is, but I feel like there are spirits around us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Question answered.
Yeah.
All right. So for my audience, which I would say most of them likely know who you guys are, there may be a few that don't. Sarasota, Florida.
Yes.
Durham, North Carolina. Florida Gator.
Yes.
Virginia Cavalier. Dancer.
Yes.
Basketball player.
I mean,
You played some
pickup
ball.
basketball. Yeah, I played in high school and I wanted to play in college, but UVA was not going to have me on their team.
Right.
I tried, but
Right. Little anxiety, little ADHD. Does that cover everything?
that's pretty good. That's
Really good
cheat sheet.
catch up.
Great
Yeah.
research.
Yeah.
Great research. That's awesome. All right, so you make a Christmas video and it blows up and your lives change. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And is that ultimately, like, you make this video, did you have any idea? I mean, you knew it was good, you knew it was funny, but
no, I mean that video changed our lives, and right?
We spent a little extra time on it, and maybe that's one of the things I realized. Okay, we've worked actually fairly hard on this, and the reason why was because we were launching a business that was going to be, we were going to be production facing. We were going to make videos for other people from behind the scenes, and so we wanted to show, hey, we can make a quality product with this funny Christmas card that we did. But by popular, we thought like maybe our parents would share it with some of their friends.
Right.
Because our parents, their friends have money.
Yeah, their friends could hire us.
Yeah.
Yeah, no idea. Honestly, if we had any idea it would blow up, we wouldn't have put our address and license plate on the
Right.
video.
There's a lot of that. And the street we grew up
And and we said the street where we lived on, and we've since moved. But yeah, we would have done a lot of things differently had we known millions of people.
Did that have any? Was there
People were driving by.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because we're idiots, and and they weren't they weren't making threats. They were like, "Oh, let's go see the Christmas Jammy People house."
Yeah.
We have nothing to do, and they would just circle the cul-de-sac.
Usually yell something out and then drive away.
Yeah, so that was not smart.
So it's not that out of left field. I mean, you're high energy people. You're creative. You have a singing background, right? You have a dancing background. Like the performance aspect of it does make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they were two things that we didn't spend much time showcasing or using at all while working in local news, right? Like that's not
right.
That was more the storytelling side. So it was an interesting confluence of I don't want to say talents. It was an interesting confluence of skills because I did have a music background. She's a really, really good dancer. But then we also had learned how to shoot and edit over years and years at local news stations that didn't have enough resources to give us photographers. So we were doing it ourselves. And that to me was like probably the thing that nobody else had at that time.
Yeah.
Unless they were really, really going to school for it.
Right.
And it went from a business like local news where all you're trying to do is get away from editing so that you can relax and just be on camera and make more money and be Matt Lauer or whatever.
Yeah, he shouldn't be gold standard.
And then all of a sudden, this new economy creates itself about 10 years ago where people are making millions and millions of dollars if they can shoot and produce these things.
So millions and millions is not.
Yeah, that's not us.
That's not us.
But like Mr. Beast, there are people who make intergenerational wealth by just shooting, editing, and posting on YouTube.
Yeah. Not tons.
Yeah,
there are
very many.
In all fairness, so I think it is interesting because a big question, and you probably have it on your list, is, what do your kids think of this? Or I have to say, our kids and their friends view this as they know it's a job, and it's a job that 14-year-olds are putting what do you want to be when you grow up? A lot of people say, I want to be on YouTube, or a content creator. And so I think this generation of kids realizes that this is an actual job. And and like any job, there are going to be people out there like the Mr. Beasts of the world that make millions and millions of videos, and then the others that are making a living and paying their mortgage. So,
So fly on the wall, when y'all are watching those numbers go nuts off that first video, there's got to be excitement, little nervousness, and then all of a sudden ideas as to what we can do with this.
So just talking about the real time of the video counter ticking up, some of that was great and was like, oh, we're now on this exponential curve that we've heard about. And you could tell when it got to a certain number that it had left the realm of like people in Raleigh to like people in North Carolina. And then it had left that
Germany
to like people around the country. But then it got to like people on Deadspin, people on Slate, people who don't necessarily, who are watching it for a different reason, right?
Sure.
Like to hate watch it.
Yep.
And so, that the numbers keep going up, but it was this kind of roller coaster that first week of maybe a little bit of affirmation that, hey, we can make a video that's catchy, that goes viral. That was our goal, was to make videos people will watch, to, oh my gosh, there's a lot of very strong opinions on the internet that I haven't been subjected to yet.
But also we didn't, in fairness, we used that to launch a company in which we were behind the camera. And it was another 3 years before we decided to just do videos for ourselves. So we didn't do more video. We did a few, every few months we would post a video, another sort of song and dance thing, just because we thought of a funny idea, but we weren't regularly uploading and trying to make that a job for another 3 years, because we are not fast learners.
Right. We also had partners and we had clients already, like we had gotten ready. So there was,
through the production company.
Yeah, there was like a dentist, there was a real estate company. There are people that we needed to be there and manage those accounts. So I think thinking, oh, let's just go off and make our own videos. That was far from.
We couldn't.
And
nor did we want to, because back then we weren't. To be clear, the job existed. There were full-time YouTubers at the time. We just had never heard of it.
Yeah.
So there wasn't anybody we could look to and aspire to be or see that was a business plan that could work.
Yeah.
We had no idea you could make money on YouTube, hand to God, until somebody emailed us and said, you need to make sure you turn the monetization on.
True.
Because after so many views and so many subscribers, there's and it's pretty high to get there. But we got there within the first day. They're like, you should make money. And it took us, I think, another 2 days before we got into the settings and turned it on. So we didn't make money off of it for the first 5 or 6 days, which is when a lot of the views came. But we made money off that next week, and we made $10,000 on that video. And I think if we had collected all the monetization, it would have been a lot more. But are you kidding? $10,000?
It's insane.
$10,000 in a time in which Penn had quit his job and he was giving up benefits. We had 2 months of savings, and we had to buy our benefits for the first time with 2 young children and 2 months in savings and clients we hoped would pay us. So $10,000.
Oh my God,
we were
lottery.
It was as if we had won the lot. I mean, $10,000. That is so much money. And so, but then we have yet to, by the way, we've never had a video with that many views on YouTube ever again.
Really? First was the highest?
On YouTube, yeah. Like certainly on other platforms, but on
YouTube.
YouTube.
But other platforms don't pay like YouTube pays.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's why when you look at, I do the math, I look at some of these people who are getting millions of views every time they post. I'm like, they are printing money. Yeah.
That's
so
insane.
I was like, let's just do that again. It's been 10 years and we haven't done it since.
That's right.
So what's the count for that video now?
I don't know.
Like 18 million.
I
don't know.
million?
It gets a bump every Christmas. Like
Yeah, but I think that after the first week or two of that was sort of like where it's plateaued.
Yep.
So I think the word is virility. Virility?
Yeah.
Virility?
Mm-hmm.
Is it? Help me.
Viral.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're talking about like being virile. Like
Being
that's
viral.
different. Yeah.
Being viral.
Yeah.
Let's say that. I think that's less sexual.
Yeah. Viral. Like able to reproduce.
Like rabid.
Yeah, let's
Why we have become quite the wordsmith group.
We are. Or you are. Sorry.
Well, I think I'm getting most of them wrong. See.
Well, that makes. I know what I mean. So being viral, going viral. Obviously, there's this new culture of that these days, and you guys can speak, in which you just kind of did, to how hard it actually is. Mm-hmm. And every kid out there it looks like it's easy, you know.
Right.
It looks like, I mean, you see all these content creators and these influencers, and they are killing it.
Yeah.
But it's almost like looking at, you know, the league of the NBA or something. It's like there's a lot of them, but in relation to the population, there's not that many, and it's very hard to do.
So I think most people assume that you make a viral video and you're set for life. Like that's what you do. You just got to get one hit and then you got all these views and you're going to get all these subscribers in. Some of that's true. Like it's a nice jump start to what you want to do next. But all of the like wildly successful YouTubers, to be specific, are the ones who posted long videos with a lot of consistency and built a base of followers who aren't looking to be like wildly entertained, but want to get to know you, basically.
Yeah.
So that was the first real wave of successful creators, and they all kind of figured it out themselves. We did not figure that
We
out.
did,
Right?
and
We didn't
we
post
still
with consistency.
And for the record, YouTube has never been the platform in which people watch us consistently. That we are not. I wouldn't call ourselves.
Yeah, it's like a library.
Yeah. So people say we're YouTubers. Like we've not had that much success there after Christmas Jammies. And I would say, because we have a rep from YouTube who wants us to post there more, but they want, 10-minute videos. We don't do that.
And they want kids.
And they want a lot of
They
kids.
want kids,
Yeah.
huh?
Well, no, that's, to be fair, no, they just want longer videos. But
You're telling me early on, like we went to all of these.
on.
We went to all of these creator summits, and they were like celebrating being pregnant again, so they could have another.
But that's
kidding.
not from YouTube. That is from other. But this is true, because they're like, every kid we have, it's another 1 million subscribers, and that's honestly, that was probably 2016, and we looked at each other and we're like, we got to get our kids like not in our videos as much, because that creeped me out so much. So I have to say, I am very proud. Like we have never chased there's needed to be a specific number or a specific view. Like I think
or another child.
Oh my, for the love, no.
we medically assured that.
You haven't sold your souls.
No.
If you watch the Christmas
We're
Jammy
our
video,
7th child.
Yeah, he just
we
got a vasectomy.
celebrate my vasectomy in the first video that we made.
Yeah.
So if we had a child, it was going to have to be something that made me very, very upset.
But we don't, I have to say, we post a video and then we don't sit there and obsessively track it. Like we'll post it and you can tell after the first hour what's going to happen. Yep. We genuinely enjoy replying to comments and seeing people in comments. But we never go back and do, Anne-Marie, who works with us, she's amazing. She's the one that will do an audit of sorts. And after a month, she'll be like, oh, this did really well. Maybe we can, but we're never out there chasing something, which I think helps, because so many kids who want to start this, maybe they do get a lot of views the first time. And then even adults, you'll see it. They get really bummed out if they're not getting those views. And that just happens. Like you just have to
that's across social media.
Yeah. You not everything is going to be a hit. And I think we've removed that expectation. And so it makes it a lot easier.
Huh.
And we posted because there was a video we posted today. I didn't even really love it, but Penn insisted that we do it, the abbreviations.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Well, I didn't even think, I was like, he was making fun of me, but I don't even know really how it's doing, but I was like, okay, Penn, if you think this is funny.
She's just started abbreviating everything.
Abbreves.
When it's unnecessary. Like
it's my pash.
It doesn't save time.
It's adorbs.
It doesn't. God. It doesn't. It just.
And Toads does. Anyway, so he kind of.
So that's all it was. That was the video.
And so something like that we know is not going to go viral, and people may even find it. I think they commented, "I'm curled up in a ball from all the cringe." People may actually unfollow us from that video.
Fine.
Yeah, but that's fine.
Don't let the door hit you.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's funny. All right, so and I got to stay on this just for a second because I'm just fascinated by it. But early on, I mean, you're telling me that you weren't somewhat obsessed over kind of the numbers and that kind of stuff. It's got to be a new world.
Not as much so as the people who we interacted with. There was this thing called insights that would tell you exactly how many people were watching at one point. At what point they were watching, what the demographic was,
how long they stay on.
So YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all of these people have incredible analytics. If it becomes a business account, especially, a lot of times it's for anybody who puts video out. You can look at it, and it to me and my ADHD brain very quickly became boring. Even if it was doing well, it was like I was sitting there staring at a thing.
And I think we realized that there are some things you can do to ensure success. You know, you can make the best possible video. You make sure it's edited well. It sounds good, that it's not out of focus. But then after that, there's this magic algorithm that just sort of does its thing. I don't ever give it too much power because I think a good video or a good piece of video is a good video. And it doesn't matter when you post it. Like we posted something, he posted something around the eclipse, and he just like had a frying pan and he did it in the parking lot. And we posted that. I'm like, that's going to go crazy viral. And it did. But we could have posted that at 2 a.m. and it would have made the rounds. So I think we were able to see so early that you're building your house on somebody else's land, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're subject to the Facebook algorithm or the Instagram algorithm. You do what you want, and then like you leave it sort of up to them because you can't control that. Yeah. You know, they don't actually, even my mom who watches everything, or she tries to, she's like, I haven't seen you post in a couple weeks. Like it doesn't show it to her.
Right.
And my mother watches everything.
Right.
So she has to go find it. And that's just, you know, we know that if we're depending on social media, they're not going to show everything to everybody.
Yeah. Well, and that's something I have dealt with to the point where I can't do it anymore because it drives me so insane. Because for my podcast, we do a lot of social media stuff, and it's like I've got all these followers, and like
nobody sees
1/60th of them see it.
Right.
They follow me to see my content, yet you don't let them see it.
Right.
I don't like it.
Yeah. And so, it has us thinking, okay, we need to build an email list. We have to find other ways to talk to people.
Yeah.
To me, I think we spend more of our time just figuring out what's next. Mm-hmm. I think that's a big part of it. And the one thing,
meaning like the next video, the next just consistency, churn.
What are we going to do next? I do think that if something goes really poorly or bad, I remember that more. It's kind of like Michael Jordan remembering the losses more than the wins.
Yeah.
Like I remember a video that tanks for sure.
Yeah.
Because it's just something to avoid.
What has tanked recently? I'm trying to remember.
Oh gosh, we haven't really had like a tank in a while.
So do you always equate the tank to the quality or the level of the video as opposed to the algorithm making that tank?
So to your point, it's like a cautionary tale. Like let's keep an eye on this if we do it again. So I've made 3 videos where I had a bald wig and a mustache.
People do not like Penn in a bald cap.
And it is such a turnoff for whoever is watching it, and it's freaking hilarious. I look amazing.
He does a really good Dr. Phil.
I do a great Dr. Phil. It's my best impression.
Yeah.
And hey, Robbie, maybe the reason that you're sorry.
No.
I can't do my real one.
Yeah, you can't do it.
Let's talk a little more about this.
Let's transition.
Okay.
ADHD book. So you have lived with it Is this like a childhood diagnosis, like your whole life kind of thing? I mean, I understand that ADHD is for life, but
I wasn't diagnosed until I was in college.
Got it. And
the biggest reason why is I'm 49, almost 50, and I'd never heard of it. I'm certain that my parents had never heard of it. It was a thing then, but it was not a terribly recognizable thing in the medical community. Mm-hmm. I had a mom who was awesome at like just kind of being on me as a mom. She was, I think they may have called her a helicopter mom now, but I needed one, right? Because I had this type of brain. And she helped put these kind of systems in place to help me get through a day. And what was left once, because I, was being able to manage the tough stuff, I was a really creative kid. And I played piano. I was good at it. I could write music. I was in performing arts. I was good at that. Thanks to, I believe, this type of brain. I think that the ADHD brain, I've always believed, is helping me create and be innovative. But then I got to college, and I went from being the person in the front of the class to being in a giant amphitheater with 300 people, and I could not make it through a classroom. I got diagnosed officially in like my senior year in college when I was about to flunk out of school, about to flunk out of college. All along the way, before that, I love being creative, but I also cried easily, which is, I found out was like an emotional dysregulation thing. I had a tough time making like deep friendships because people would open up to me, talk to me, and I wouldn't get the end of what they were saying. And I felt like I was weird, like I was kind of the weird kid in the playground. And so probably my biggest reason for wanting to write this book was trying to learn more about what was going on in my brain and help explain that to another kid who might be in the playground right now.
Yeah.
The second big reason was once I got through that, once I met an amazing wife who would put up with all my weirdness.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, thank you. I got to the point where I was running my own, co-running my own business and raising a family, and the executive functioning part, like things, I just started forgetting stuff, like dangerous stuff, leaving stoves on, leaving keys in cars.
Like Robbie, what time were we going to record again?
Yeah. Well, so that one came from my wife. And
because I wasn't on my calendar.
I had you blocked out from 1 to 4, Robbie, just in case.
Wow. It wasn't on my calendar though, so right.
It's on the skylight thing downstairs. I looked right at it.
I know, but
so I feel like I did my work. Anyway,
I used my tools.
So that was good. You just saw what happened there, which is, communication issues and, that shame came back that I had when I was a kid. Like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I do this?
Yeah.
And so a deep dive, and several years later, talking to therapists, psychiatrists, psychologists, teachers, and authors of the past who had really kind of started this movement about understanding ADHD, I'm left with this new understanding of my brain so that when these things happen, at least I don't think that there's just something that I'm a freak and there's something wrong with me. Like, I know what's going on.
Yeah.
That was a long answer.
No, it's perfect. It's perfect because it opens up lots of little doors. Can you explain when you say what goes on in my brain and what kind of brain I have?
Yeah.
What is that? What is the definition of ADHD aside from the?
It's a neurodevelopmental disorder that affects basically your prefrontal cortex, and this is just a chemical explanation.
Yeah.
It makes it so that the dopamine in your brain is not distributed efficiently, and for that reason, it affects the executive functioning of your brain. And the best metaphor for that is, you see this podcast thing that we have here?
It's a mixing board.
Yeah, this is a mixing board here. And all right, I'm going to do something right now. This is my voice, and it's getting quieter and quieter and quieter, and now it's getting louder and louder and louder, and here I am. That's a dimmer, right? You can do that and create a perfect composition with the three of us talking where we're all at about 60%. We're not all at 100%. And that's the neurotypical brain. You can juggle a lot of things, a lot of stimulus, right? The ADHD brain has 100% and 0%. And it's one thing at a time. So whatever it is that you're focusing on right now, it is your pretty face, Robbie.
My chins.
Yes. You look great.
Just the one chin. It's an amazing chin.
Everything else is leaving my working memory.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's so, for me, it's so specific to one thing. So whatever task it is that I'm working on, if I get distracted and move back over to this, I don't remember what the heck it was that we were just talking about.
Yeah.
And the world is not built to exist like that right now, because we're all doing and need to balance a lot of things, especially as a parent, somebody who runs a business. So the world is not made to do things one at a time. Mm-hmm. And that's when things get hard.
Yeah. So that was one of my favorite metaphors. My other great metaphor was that when you're trying to executive function these things and you're trying to do a bunch of tasks at once, the neurotypical brain, and you'll like this one, it's like a VIP party, like inside a nightclub where there's a bouncer and there's a velvet rope, and he's going to let only certain people or certain things in. So that bouncer is going to control so that not everybody gets in to your brain. The ADHD brain is an open air Coachella concert. Everyone's invited. You feel wind, you feel rain. Every piece of stimulus that could be hitting you is hitting you all at the same time. And so you understand how that's a little bit, those are two sort of different concepts. One is I'm telling you it's just one thing at a time, but it's all, as that's happening, you're taking in everything. Like there's no way to mute out anything that's going on.
So his brain ideally works if there's one thing he can focus on because he has tons of attention, but in reality, everything's getting in there. So it's actually an amazing brain. That's why ADHDers, and we wrote about in the book, there have been studies, they traditionally are more creative because their brain is accepting information at a higher rate or whatever it is. Yeah. And then because they're taking in all this input all the time. Whereas our boring neurotypical brains, or I guess I'm not technically neurotypical, but they just a very, standard. We can kind of regulate what's coming in and out.
Yeah. So the executive function is where it's all here.
Yeah. The executive function is where you choose to pay your attention. Mm-hmm. And the open air concert is how much attention you actually have.
Got it.
So the truth of it is people with ADHD have an abundance of attention. We just don't know how to focus it.
Yeah. So I was diagnosed with it in college as well, lower levels. Mm-hmm. And the doctor said, you've learned to deal with it, so you don't need medication. You're just... and so, and I think that's why I relate to you in a lot of ways, just because I have this creative mind. I'm a crier. Like, I'm super sensitive. I can't... all those things. Like, I hit all those characteristics. But I know that there's a scale as well. Mm-hmm. Like my daughter actually has moderate. And this book is huge for us. Mm. It really is because, and we knew once she was diagnosed that we were learning to practice patience and understanding, and you didn't just forget, you know, and you don't scold someone for forgetting, right? We don't scold anyway, but, so there's a level of understanding. So help me understand that kind of scale on that, because real quick, one last thing, I've got another friend has a son who is about as extreme as it gets, and it's to the point of
it's a spectrum.
It's on the spectrum.
It's a spectrum.
It's very much.
Number one, it's a spectrum. Number two, it gets along really well with other stuff. It gets along well with alcoholism. It gets along well with depression. It gets along well with
anxiety and autism. So. I think I just read a study, and this could be wrong, that I think 60% of ADHDers also have some sort of diagnosed anxiety. And there's a lot of kids on the autism spectrum that also have ADHD. So ADHD likes to attach itself to other neuro differences as well. So that is why the spectrum, it is so vast.
Yeah. Wow. So what's it like being married to it?
This is so Penn's version of ADHD is going to look very different than your version of ADHD. Everything I found so charming about Penn, and I when I first met him, he was just, so gregarious and spontaneous and just on fire, right? And so charming and such a smoke show. But that is what I was super understatement. Like I was like I thought this man is mine. Like this is what, but I would say all of those parts of his personality that I loved so much were his ADHD, you know? And so all of those things, you know, the spontaneity and the every sort of charming thing that came out of his mouth and all of his creative ideas, I loved. But when we had, you know, infants and we were starting a business and I needed like a partner to buckle down,
right.
That was
remember what I said.
Because to be fair, I mean, yes, he was on academic probation in school. So that his ADHD bothered him then. But after that, he did a really good job of finding jobs, even if it was, he was a waiter after college, but he also sang, he worked for tips singing opera songs as he was like waiting tables. So he
Remember
always
the macaroni grill.
The macaroni grill.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Every
job he had, he sort of found a way to make it ADHD like
conducive.
Yeah. I mean, he switched channels in a bar for TV channels at a sports bar. Like that was so
just like a pro.
But yeah, I mean, and that
was the job.
Honestly, that would have driven me bananas. And then he worked in local news, which is very conducive to ADHD. So his ADHD wasn't really bothering him until he was in a relationship. I mean,
which is not always conducive to ADHD. So like
relationships,
having a partner and going on a walk with that partner takes work for me to listen. There's so much going on. Raising a kid and getting them ready for school, that is harder to me than some things that are very hard to other people. That is harder to me than composing a song. Is getting my kids ready for school and making sure I don't turn the fucking stove on and leave it on and leave the house, which I've done several times. So sorry about the bad word.
So
that felt like a good time for it.
So I would say that the hard things are very easy for Penn, and the easy things are hard. Like close a drawer.
Do you feel that way too?
Close a drawer.
Occasionally, it's different things.
Okay.
For me, yeah.
Like close a drawer, close a cabinet.
Oh God.
But why?
This is where
Let's get into that.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because my son, he's 14, he has ADHD. He is actually a little obsessive about making sure things are closed. So I don't know that that's I don't know if the closing of the drawers is ADHD, but in the scientific explanation, you open the drawer and you've already moved on to the next task. So the fact that it's been opened has left your working memory is the sort of explanation of it. But I don't know if every ADHD person leaves that open.
Well, I will say that they may not. I will say that I don't do it anymore because I have to literally look at it and say, close the drawer. Like when I leave a room, push the chairs back in underneath the table.
Yeah.
And to me, like that.
Toilet seat down.
Yeah. I just pee sitting down. It just makes it a lot easier.
So much.
But
do you face the back of the toilet and put
that's a certain time of day when that works better.
I'm so confused, and I don't want to be part of this conversation.
It's if you wake up and you have
what?
Yeah.
Morning.
Todd Jurakowski taught me that.
Oh my Lord!
I hope Todd's listening. Hi, Todd. No, so what was I going to say?
Oh my gosh! Now you're thinking about your wiener.
How often do you say that?
A lot. No, so you have to. Let's put it this way: it's embarrassing, and was embarrassing to me that I couldn't do these things, and I refused for the longest time to say I'm going to work on putting the toilet seat down. I'm going to work on shutting drawers because I just felt beneath me. Like I'm an adult.
Yeah.
I'm smart. I'm real, and I can even say things as petty as I'm smarter than you. I'm still smarter than you.
He, for the record, did not say that to me.
No, it's in my head. I'm saying it in my head.
So hold on a second.
But it makes you're so ashamed. You don't want to work on this easy stuff. Do you want to get back to the toilet seat thing?
I want to get back to the fact that in your head you were saying you were smarter than me.
That's like this was me retreating,
just in my
trying.
head.
Like not you. I
not
say it to
loud.
I try to say it to anybody. Who tells me that I need to do something very remedial, and I've been doing it since I was a kid. I do not do it anymore, but that's part of the shame and part of the denial that comes with having this type of brain. And one of the biggest steps I made was like, okay, I'm just going to be intentional about doing all this easy stuff. and I don't get it right all the time, but I do better now that I just suck it up and say, I'm gonna do this. It's probably easier now that I know that a lot of times I can't help it, right? It makes it easier for you to want to work on it. Because, if once you study it enough and realize like everything we just said, sometimes it just happens and you have no control over it.
Yeah.
Like involuntary symptoms. But in the end, it just came down to me having to say, dude, like, do this. There's no shame in it. Put the frickin', do the dishes. Turn off the stove. And then celebrate when you do. Instead of just say, I'm glad I did that.
The only way I can equate or relate is when I was having battles with alcohol. It's like I couldn't stop drinking. I couldn't stop. I was addicted. I was an alcoholic, full blown. And then I got sober. And it's like, oh, you could have done this all along, right? And so there's this thing in your head that like, oh, well, I don't want people to think that like I was just bullshitting this whole time. So maybe I should go drinking again to let everybody know I actually do have a problem and I can't control it. And I want to drink anyway because I'm an alcoholic. So there's something that I'm hearing in there where it's like, if you submit to doing the easy things, then maybe you don't actually have a big problem. You could have been doing this all along.
Right. Well,
if you just work at it.
Here's
like I've been telling you to do.
Here's what alcoholism and ADHD have in common. And I hope I get this right, but you don't just not get ADHD when you stop doing these things. It's still what your brain is. I imagine, and I believe I've been taught that that's the same thing with alcoholism. You can stop drinking, but you've still got that brain.
No question.
And alcoholism is a brain. It's not a decision, right?
Right.
So yeah, that's another thing that they've got in common.
Yeah.
It's another reason why, people with ADHD struggle with alcoholism.
Yeah.
So to me, that's an interesting thought though, just to say like, oh yeah.
Right.
So for me, that would be like just leaving everything, just trashing the house. Like with
It's
my
not
I
experiment.
can't help it. Yeah.
Well, so that's why. So I think there was a moment, and it was a brief moment, where he's like, I can't help it. Like he wasn't at some place on time or something like that. He's like, I can't help it. It's my ADHD. And he literally said that one time in our relationship.
Yeah.
Because
good.
it is an explanation, but it is not an excuse.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I felt like for a while I did. You say that kind of crap when you're cornered.
Yeah, he was
You know
very
what I mean?
defensive.
And I've been cornered and I've been defensive around it. And that's another thing we talk about a ton in the book is, limit your self-talk, take a 30,000 view of things and say, okay, like it's not the end of the world what you just did. Stop talking down to yourself and say, I'm sorry. I'm going to work on this to try to make sure that it happens less. I used to say that it's never going to happen again. But that's not a good idea. That's not a good idea with this.
Yeah, set yourself up. All right, well, let's shift it over into why it is such a superpower.
Thank you. Yeah, there's good stuff, right?
Yeah.
Or at least I believe this. Listen, this is up for debate. Okay. I had a conversation with someone yesterday about this, and it was a really smart doctor. But I believe that the same personality trait that has me sometimes forgetting things, sometimes not being able to finish conversations, that same personality trait is what allows me to be incredibly spontaneous, creative, and hyper-focused from time to time and fixate on things that really matter. And it's all the three things that have encompassed every single job that I've ever had in my life. So I do believe that all of the things that occasionally drive my family nuts, it's the same thing that makes me successful in my job. And it's one of the reasons why personally I've really decided to dive into the behavioral interventions, the systems that I put in place, and not medicate myself. Because I don't know if this is true, but at least for everyone, but me personally, when I did go on medication when I was in college, I graduated from college because of that medication, but my personality felt different. And I wanted to be my real self. I know that not everyone can do that.
Yeah.
Because I have as you said, a light to moderate case of ADHD. And this is my personal feeling. So for me, yeah.
And medication, for the record, works for most people.
Most.
And he was in the 90s on some weird medication. So I think now, even if it doesn't work for you, you can go to a psychiatrist and they'll adjust it or they'll put you on a new one. So, and it works for like 90. I mean, don't want to quote numbers here, but it works for a lot of people.
Yeah. And it's also possible that medication doesn't like stifle people's creativity all the time.
Absolutely.
Like
I think in the 90s, it probably wasn't as honed as it is now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you also think about like, you could take it when it's applicable.
Yeah.
Right? Like, like lots of young kids who are in a situation
they take it like, I have math.
Yeah. A bunch of my college friends sure took it when applicable.
Yeah.
And and they just took mine.
Big long lines of it.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, I had to have a talk with my friends about
taking
my medication.
Your medication.
When applicable.
Yeah.
No, because it's I think about like anxiety medication and you don't unless it's super acute and going on consistently. You take it when you need it. Right.
Yeah. Big fan of that.
Yeah. Tell us about your anxiety if you don't mind digging into that. I suffer from that as well.
Oh, it's super fun, right?
Yeah. I love the fear of.
Oh yeah, just like random things.
Just loss of control.
Yeah, it is the strangest sort of experience, and I think that because if you look at my life, I'm so lucky. I have an amazing partner. I mean, I won the lottery with husbands. Just such a good guy. Total smoke show. Want to make out all the time. It's great.
Preaching to the choir.
Yeah, I know, right? Look at him. And an amazing, like, this is my job. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I get to do this that's you're joking.
Living the dream.
I live in the dream. And I have kids that I love being around. And if you look at a snapshot of my life, it is amazing. So why am I in the grocery store having a panic attack in the pasta aisle? Oh, and I don't know why. Like, I've had to like abandon my grocery cart and call Penn. I'm like, I'm sorry, we don't have groceries. I don't know why. And so I have to say, I think part of the reason I can extend grace with ADHD mishaps is because I have had to call him and say, I was trying to grocery shop and I don't know what's wrong with me, but I can't, and I can't drive right now. And he's like, got it. Okay. We got it. I'll go to the store. I got it. And there's not, or I'll just say, hey, today's just not, I can't do today. And I need to pull the covers over my head, and he jumps in. So my first I've had like anxiety, like my first panic attack I remember was in high school. But I didn't know how the words for it. I didn't know what that was. But my chest was really tight, and I was supposed to go out to a party. And I told my mom, like, I think something bad's going to happen. To my mother's credit, she's like, I think you can stay here, but I think you need to go. And it was sort of that exposure therapy. Yeah. And I went, and it was fine. Had some wine coolers. It was fine.
Yeah.
And then I think those were infrequent until after I had kids, and I think the hormonal changes. And then when my son was an infant, I couldn't walk down the stairs. I had to like be on my butt because I was so afraid I'd trip and fall. And like I had visions of falling while I was holding him. He had to go to the doctor every day because he had such bad reflux, and we were doing weight checks. It was awful. But I wouldn't drive on the highway because I was afraid of like a big semi truck. I was just white knuckling through life. And so I definitely got a medication then, stayed on that for a few years. It was like, oh, I'm fine. I got off. And then for like 7 or 8 years, I was sort of, again, just white knuckling life. And I have this amazing life. So why I felt so guilty. Like, why I shouldn't feel this way.
Yeah.
I shouldn't feel this way. I have the best life ever. And I felt a lot of shame. And then I'm going through perimenopause, which is super fun. And I was talking to my doctor about like hormones and this and that. And I'm like, I want to go as natural as possible. And she's like, why? She's like, you need some medicine. So I just went on.
Just do it.
I just got back on meds for this kind of anxiety and also OCD, like, the intrusive thought stuff. And life is so much better. I don't know what I was thinking. Like, I just don't have a brain. Like, he has asthma and has to take an inhaler. I have a brain that needs medication.
Yeah.
So I don't, at least for now, maybe there's a time in which I get off it again, but our life is too amazing for me to feel like crap as often as I was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Wow.
That's a really long answer.
No, thank you for sharing that. Because it's there are times where you can pinpoint the causation of these things, and then there's times you just can't.
Yeah.
Because there's deep or whatever it is. But, they often equate the two, anxiety and depression. Mm-hmm. And so do you medicate for depression, or is it
so
anxiety
mine
symptoms?
is the anxiety.
That's very personal, and I hope that's okay.
No. Like we tried, honestly, when I was going in the depths of it after my son was born, so this is 14 years ago, I was searching for somebody who was talking about this.
Yeah, good.
So my thing has been, I'm going to be open, so maybe I'm that person for somebody else, because everybody's like, oh, having a baby was the best day of my life, and it's so happy. And I'm like, girl, I can't even.
I hate my baby.
I loved my baby, but I was so afraid that he was going to stop breathing in the middle of the night that I didn't sleep for 4 months. And I just like stood. So like I was not enjoying it.
Right.
No. So I'm medicating for I'm on like a pediatric dose of Prozac. Yeah. And so that's the depression I don't think I fall into that, although I've had some times in which I think I would qualify as depressed, but that's not my bag right now. I mean, it could happen. Anything could happen.
Yeah. Well, again, thanks for sharing that. So I got a master's in clinical mental health counseling. And
when did you get that?
Right after I quit drinking.
Good on you. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I've been a therapist for years, and I've done substance use, and I do crisis management and
good for you.
All kinds of crazy shit.
Yeah, I didn't realize you got like a degree on it. I thought you just
talk to people.
I thought that you were your own research.
Yeah, well, I was, and then, I say that all the time. I have the experience. I was raised in an alcoholic family. I was an alcoholic, and I studied it, and then I worked in it.
So you were the lab rat and the scientist.
Fully. I understand it and can speak to it.
How much of a difference did it make once you learned, how about the wiring and the physiology of it?
Less so there. It's more about the practice of talking about it.
Got it.
And effectively communicating and talking to someone who's going through something like an anxiety-ridden brain or experience. I mean, so much of addiction is loss of control, which is very similar to anxiety. But my point was I quit drinking, and I was like the most emotional child you've ever, all these emotions that I'd been pushing down with alcohol for 15 years were coming out.
Yeah.
And I'm practicing counseling with people, talking about problems, and I couldn't stop crying. I'm in this college, and there's other students, and I can't do it without crying. Which you can't do as a therapist.
I know, as a therapist. I would love it if my therapist started crying.
I'm going to go with Kim on this.
I love it when my therapist gets mad. She's like, I'm mad for you. I'm like, yes, girl. Like, I love that.
Yeah, it's different if you're crying and mad with them, but not your own shit.
Okay, got it.
It's a different something. This is different. So I got on a medication then to help me with my emotions or just to control them a little bit more. And I don't think I've been off of it since. It's been like 16 years.
I see also how with anxiety, because my instinct is always was, I just need a glass of wine. And we put ourselves in check on the drinking front.
Like that.
I know. So on the drinking front, we're really careful about that just because of family history. So, but I see totally, I understand absolutely 100% why somebody with anxiety would reach for an alcoholic beverage.
No question. There's an interesting stat, and we talk about it often in the field of substance use, but there's a correlation, a very heavy and valid correlation between how early you start drinking and the probability of addiction later. And it's for that exact reason, that your brain is developing during a time that you are putting a substance in it. And these social experiences and these things that you're supposed to learn and develop on your own, often social, are dealt with through alcohol.
Interesting.
And so later on, it's very hard to deal with those things very similarly because you never had to learn. And so a cocktail before you go to a party, cocktail before dinner, cocktail all that is the same thing as what I was doing in high school, which was beers before a party.
I've heard that before. Maybe I'm second guessing. I'm struggling with this because our daughter's going to go to college soon.
Yep.
There's going to be alcohol in college.
Sure.
And like my dad was like, I didn't drink at all until my senior year. And he's like, you got to have a little bit of a baseline of what's about to happen to you. And so he started serving wine at dinner when I was like a senior. And I hope that didn't like affect me adversely or in some way, but like it made me think that like before my kids go to school, I need to at least know that they know what it feels like to have alcohol in their system.
To college?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's later.
Okay.
Like the brain is already very well developed before college.
Okay, I got
mean, still has a lot more to go, but I'm talking junior. Like I started drinking at 12.
Okay. Yeah. And I also think that nowadays, kids these days, I feel I'm so old when I say this, there's so many that are delaying that now.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's great.
A lot of education.
Or they're not telling
a lot of
us.
awareness.
Or they're doing different things.
Just not telling.
Or they're doing, or there's different things.
They're doing
they've
exactly
done.
what I did, which was hide it well.
Yeah, but I think that I kind of love the kids these days are so much
They
better
seem to be
equipped.
evolving
They're
nicely.
They
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
They are just smoking more weed. But
yeah, probably.
More natural.
I will say this. The other day I was walking with my daughter and we often have these conversations. I mean, obviously she's never seen me drink. She's never seen me under the influence of alcohol. And so I educate her a lot on this stuff. And the other day I'm walking with her and I don't know why, but I'm talking about basically what we're talking about and just kind of how she's about to go to high school. Like she just middle school. Now she's going from a very small private school to a massive Myers Park High School in Charlotte, like huge. And and we're talking about like, she's kind of jumped into more of a popular crowd where before she was very reserved and more artsy, and she will remain that way, but she's growing into herself. Her personality is developing. People are drawn to her. She's beautiful. And I'm like, just these things are going to pop up, these chances, these opportunities, this guy you really like, these girls you really like, they're going to drink, you got to think about it. You got to, I'm not, and I don't tell her she can. I don't tell her she shouldn't. I don't say anything. It's all about just be aware, be aware. And then she's like, what'd she say? She's like, Dad, I'm not planning on drinking. And I'm like, well, why? Because it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And she's like, you've been talking to me about this since I was 5.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Well, it worked.
It worked.
Holy cow.
And also I love that there are so many mocktails on menus and the NA beers are he loves an NA beer and all this. So I just love that there's an option and nobody thinks twice about it anymore.
It's
if you didn't
it's a new day in the alcohol space. It's really cool. All right. So we can start to wrap here. I think the one thing I wanted to kind of touch on a little bit more with the book was the mission of it. And you did kind of explain it. And by the way, the book is called ADHD is Awesome, right? Is there any subtitle or anything?
It is, but it's called A Guide to Mostly Thriving with ADHD.
A Guide to Mostly Thriving with ADHD. You can get it anywhere. The mission of the book, which I can tell automatically, is to normalize, is to destigmatize, is to shift kind of the perception of ADHD. I mean, is that right? Is that accurate?
That is goal number 1. To reframe it. It's a terrible name.
Yeah.
It's not correct. Again, when we said this, you don't have a deficit of attention, you have an abundance. A lot of the times you're not hyperactive. And you could argue that it's not a disorder. It's a learning difference or a brain difference. So reframing it and making sure that people know that it's not as doom and gloom as it sounds. Another goal is to make sure that people can learn about the brain that they have through some of just the explanations of their executive functioning. So they're not saying, what the heck is wrong with me? Because not only has it been stigmatized, it's mystified as well. Like you don't know what exactly is going on because it's never been, it's not always well explained to people who are diagnosed with it. Mm-hmm. And then the third goal is to try to write a book that a person with ADHD might actually be interested in finishing. Right. So to have entertainment and to have a format with the book that allows people to get through it.
Love it. Mm-hmm. Love it. Kim and Penn, thank you for coming on Champagne Problems.
Thank you for having us.
I really appreciate it.